Hello everyone. Students, in the last session we have started our poem The Road Not Taken, written by the poet Robert Frost. In that session we have completed our 2 stanzas. Now today we are going to start our 3rd stanza. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads unto way, I doubted if I should ever come back. Now students, in this stanza, the word trodden. Now trodden, the word means walked over. Now we'll do the explanation of the stanza. Here, again the poet found both the path looking same. Perhaps he goes in the flashback. It was tough for him to recognize the road, as in the morning he was the first person to walk on the road. He couldn't decide the right path, as no step had smashed the leaves on the roads to allow him to go for the right one. These lines are an example of an imaginary. Here, the poet saves the first road for another day. He knows how way leads to another and then another, until how ends up very far from where you started. Here, the poet saves the first road for another day. He knows how way leads to another and then another, until how ends up very far from where you started. Then he doesn't think he will ever be able to come back and take the other path as much as he wishes he could. Students, in the same way, even in our life, once we choose an option, we must keep on moving ahead with that option, and we never get a chance to come back and take the other option that we had left earlier. So, in this stanza, the poet wants to convey that whatever the path we can choose in our life, we should stay with that at last, till last. We should not think about to change our decisions. Once we take the decision, we should be firm of it. We should never get a chance to come back. Now, students will discuss the figure of speech for stanza number 3. In the second line, in leaves no step had trodden black. Now the word no, that is the negative word used by the poet, so it is an example of litotes. Third line, oh, I kept the first for another day. Now at the end of the sentence, the poet has used exclamatory mark. So here it's an example of exclamation. Now in the fourth line, the word way, twice it was used by the poet. So it is the repetition. The word day and way, 2 rhyming words, here the poet has used. So here it's an example of internal rhyme. Now student will have the last stanza with the poem. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. Now the word here the poet had used, that is diverge, that is means separated. Here what the poet wants to say, that he says that in the future he will be take a deep breath and say that once upon a time he reached such a point in life that there were 2 options for him, and he travelled upon by lesser number of people. That decisions of his decides his future. Similarly, Similarly, in future, when you grow up, then you will say that once upon a time, when you were young, you had two options. The choice that you made you what you became. I repeat the sentence. The choice that you made you what you became of it. This is a very strong message for all the students that you should be wise and be careful while making choices out of the options that you have in your life, because your future depends on the choices that you make today. The last line, which is very important, students, the poet took the path that no one else did. What does it mean by "and that has made all the difference"? Here it means that the poet took the path that no one else did, and that is what has made the difference in his life. It made him successful. It made him a success man. However, the word difference made here, it means that success. Now students will discuss the figure of speech for the stanza. The first line, I shall be telling this with a sigh. Now here the word used, sigh, it means a deep breath which makes a sound, and that's why it is an example of onomatopoeia. Next sentence, somewhere ages and ages. Now two words, twice it's repeated, that's why it is repetition. Now students, at the last, again we just discuss about the summary of the poem. Robert Frost, the American poet, has described the choices that human beings have to make in their lives. This title has a symbolic meaning. A path or road stands for a choice in life, a career or a decision. The poet says that once he came across two paths at an important stage of his life. Now here he knew that he could not take both choices at the same time. He had to decide any one of them. At the end, the poet chose the second road, which was less traveled, grassy and wanted wear. He listened to his mind and curious to achieve his dreams and goals. He made up his mind and very much ready to face all obstacles and hardships during his journey. Later he realized that if he wanted, he could change his decision. But as the time passed, the poet finds that his life was very tough. But looking back, he feels that he has been successful because of the choice he made. Thank you. Now students, at the end of this poem, I have framed one assignment for you that you need to write it in your notebook. These are the answers the following, which you need to write it in your notebook. Where does the traveler find himself? Is there any difference between the two roads as the poet describes in stanza 2 and 3 in the last two lines of the poem? I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Explain these lines. And last, justify the title, The Road Not Taken. Now students, after this video, I have already sent you the PDF file for the summary of the poem, the assignment. So make sure you can get it and you do your work. Thank you.